Hey, I wanted to share some stuff about our friend, not really friend, but Ilhan Omar. Her Somali friends have been stealing billions of dollars from us. Went as far as calling us slaves, and white men are really the worst thing that ever happened, according to her, even though she's married to one after she married her brother. Weird.
Quietly scrubs names from website as squad member faces mounting questions on sudden wealth amid Minnesota welfare fraud. Embattled Representative Ilhan Omar's husband's venture capital firm quietly scrubbed key officer details including former Obama officials as scrutiny grows over the family's skyrocketing wealth, the Post has learned. Omar, Demon, went from nearly broke to being worth up to $30 million in just a year as a massive, up to $9 billion fraud scheme involving the Somali community in her district unfolded right under her nose in the North Star State. Close to 90 people have been charged so far, including at least 3 with direct ties to the lefty squad member, though she has not been accused of wrongdoing. Between $6 million and $30 million in 2024. Getty Images. It was Somalia-born Omar who was seen in a resurfaced video last month dishing out food in a restaurant now at the heart of the scandal, who introduced the legislation that critics say paved the way for Ilhan Omar and husband Tim Minot declared assets between $6 million and $30 million in 2024. Getty Images. It was Somalia-born Omar who was seen in a resurfaced video last month dishing out food in a restaurant now at the heart of the scandal, who introduced the legislation that critics say paved the way for what the feds have called the largest fraud of the pandemic. The Jimmy Choo-wearing socialist introduced the Meals Act in Congress in 2020, relaxing oversight of government-sponsored children's meal programs during the pandemic, which critics say allowed fraudsters to claim they served millions of meals without verification, while pocketing millions of dollars in government subsidies. Shortly after the scheme played out, Omar's husband, political consultant Tim Minot, launched Rose Lake Capital, a venture capital management firm, in 2022. The company saw its reported value go from nearly zero in 2023 to between $5 million and $25 million in just a year, and touted its officers' $60 billion in previous assets under management, an amount many Wall Street money managers only dream of. "There's a lot of strange things going on," said Paul Kaminar, counsel to the National Legal and Policy Center. "She was basically broke when she came into office, and now she's worth perhaps up to $30 million, she needs to come clean on these assets." Rose Lake Capital, which touts its deep global networks built from on-the-ground work in more than 80 countries, had less than $1,000 in assets in 2023, according to Omar's financial disclosure. Yet despite the reported windfall, the business's only address is a WeWork in D.C., according to its LinkedIn page. Between September and October, when federal prosecutors announced charges against 8 more individuals, including 6 of Somali descent, for their roles in the welfare scheme, the names and bios of Rose Lake Capital's 9 officers and advisors were removed from the website. None of them were charged in the fraud. These names include lobbyist and former Obama ambassador to Bahrain Adam Arali, former Senator and Obama ambassador to China Max Baucus, DNC Finance Chair Associate Alex Hoffman, former DNC Treasurer William Darrow, and former ex-CEO of Amalgamated Bank Keith Mestrich, who once described Amalgamated as the institutional bank of the Democratic Party. Meanwhile, Minot's other business, a California winery that previously faced fraud allegations and was declared a failed venture in 2023, was suddenly worth between $1 million and $5 million in 2024, a windfall of 9,900%. The fraud case involved a wine investor suing Minot in October 2023, accusing him of swindling him out of $900,000 as he fraudulently misrepresented that est true, LLC was a legitimate company. Minot claimed he simply struggled to build a business during the pandemic. The case settled out of court in November. The winery, EST Crew, at some point around 2022 promoted a line of wines with names like Blockchain and The Devil's Lie, with a prestigious California winemaker saying she abruptly stopped getting paid in early 2023. The business was only worth between $15,000 and $50,000 in Omar's financial disclosure that year, making the sudden windfall the next year even more puzzling. It too is listed as operating out of a WeWork, and doesn't appear to actually sell any wines anymore, according to extensive internet searches. Despite the high worth placed on the business, its website is a broken link, the phone number is disconnected, and the last social media post for the winery dates back to 2023. Omar was worth nothing when she first took office in 2019, with only debt to her name. CQ Roll Call, Inc. via Getty Images. While working families were being ripped off by a massive welfare scam, Omar's campaign took money from convicted fraudsters. Her husband launched a firm that suddenly ballooned in value, and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz looked the other way, according to Kirsten Pelz, spokesperson for the Republican National Committee. When she first took office in 2019, the left-wing squad member declared a net worth between $25,000 and $65,000, claimed to own no assets and be only carrying student and car debt. Now Omar's assets have suddenly skyrocketed to anywhere between $6 million and $30 million, according to her latest financial disclosure just months after the Congresswoman dismissed claims that she was a millionaire as ridiculous and categorically false. Her links to the Minnesota welfare scheme have started to come to light in recent weeks. 11 children's meal programs have been at the heart of the fraud scandal involving the Somali community in Minnesota. Getty Images. Her campaign received $7,400 in direct donations from at least 3 now convicted fraudsters, though the squad member insisted she returned the donations after the scandal broke. She's been closely linked to at least 2 individuals from Minnesota's Somalian community who've been charged in the fraud. One is Salim Ahmed Said, the co-owner of Minneapolis Safari Restaurant, where Omar held her 2018 congressional victory party. Said was found guilty in August of stealing more than $12 million for serving 3.9 million phantom meals during the COVID-19 pandemic, blowing much of the money on a $2 million Minneapolis mansion and a $9,000 a month shopping habit at Nordstrom, according to prosecutors. Does Ilhan Omar know these people? Are they from her wonderfully managed home country of Somalia? President Trump posted on his Truth Social platform when the news of the charges first broke. Somali gangs are terrorizing the people of that great state, and billions of dollars are missing. Send them back to where they came from. 11 Since the scandal exploded, the Safari restaurant is listed as permanently closed on Google. Star Tribune via Getty Images. As the scam was underway in 2020, Omar even appeared on video at Safari restaurant to praise the program. Every day Safari provides 2,300 meals to children and their families, she boasted in Somali in the video, while being filmed handling trays of food in a parking lot with her pandemic-era face mask pulled down below her nose. The other individual, Gouad Hashi Said, worked on Omar's campaign in 2018 and 2020, and pleaded guilty in August to running a fake food site called Advance Youth Athletic Development, where he falsely claimed to serve 5,000 meals a day and pocketed $3.2 million out of the food program. 11 The Somali community in Omar's district in Minnesota has been thrown into the spotlight in recent weeks. AFP via Getty Images. On Capitol Hill last week, Omar said she had no regrets about introducing the Meals Act. Absolutely not, it did help feed kids, she told a reporter. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Kamala Harris's former running mate, has also faced intense scrutiny for letting the scandal unfold on his watch. Education Secretary Linda McMahon wrote a letter calling for him to resign, and Representative Tom Emmer, Armin, hinted at possible criminal charges. Ilhan Omar is as disingenuous as they come, he told the Post Saturday. She promotes socialist policies while cashing in a taxpayer-funded paycheck and sitting on tens of millions of dollars. At least now we have an explanation for why she's so out of touch with the priorities of hard-working, everyday Minnesotans. 11 Omar and Minot have seen their fortunes skyrocket in the last year. Getty Images for Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. 11 Minot's venture capital firm claims to already have $60 billion in assets under management. At TimmyNet/X, the Treasury and Justice Department has already launched an investigation into the alleged money laundering. When reached for comment, Omar's communications director sent the Post a message saying the entire office was closed until January 5, without offering an alternative contact. Minot did not return the Post's messages, and both his business's numbers were not working.
Hello, we'd like to ask where the money's going. What do you guys think about the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota? Hello, we'd like to ask where the money's going. What do you guys think about the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota?
A bombshell viral video purports to have cracked open a crucial part of the alleged Somali aid scheme in Minnesota, as federal investigators say as much as $9 billion could have been stolen in fraudulent schemes within the state. The aftermath has since garnered intense backlash aimed at state leadership, with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz desperately defending himself against ever-growing allegations. Here's everything you need to know. On December 26th, YouTuber Nick Shirley shared a 42-minute video of himself and a Minnesotan named David traveling around Minneapolis and visiting multiple child care and learning sites allegedly owned by Somali immigrants and receiving millions in taxpayer dollars.
$1.604 million in fiscal year 2025. This place right here.
However, the pair discovered that many were either shuttered entirely with blacked out windows, despite signage indicating they were open, or were helmed by staff who refused to participate in the video.
Can I speak to a manager?
Most of the sites, which claimed to be licensed for dozens of children each, had no children inside whatsoever.
Can you tell us why there are no children? Have you ever seen children at this child care center?
Doesn't know if she's ever seen a child here.
One infamous location called Quality Learning Center, which displays a misspelled sign reading Quality Leering Center, also features blacked out windows. The center is supposed to account for 99 children. However, a local resident of 8 years revealed he's never seen a child go in or out of the building.
Where are the children?
I don't see them. I've been here since 2017. I haven't seen anybody like
Never
that here.
seen a child here.
No.
Shirley even asked multiple sites if he would be able to have his child join, only to be denied at the door.
Can I get paperwork or anything to submit my son, little Joey, to come in here to daycare? Would my son, little Joey, have friends to play?
Like wildfire on social media, garnering over 100 million views on X alone. On Fox News' The Big Weekend Show, Shirley joked that the alleged scheme was so obvious that a kindergartner could figure out there was fraud going on.
So there better be change because, like I said, we work way too hard to be paying taxes. We work way too hard to be not knowing where our money's going. And at the end of the day, the people in the government, they work for us. We don't work for them. And so it's their responsibility to hold these people accountable.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has since faced intense scrutiny over the alleged fraud. Republican Minnesota Representative Tom Emmer wrote on X, $4 million of hard-earned tax dollars going to an education center that can't even spell learning correctly. Care to explain this one, Tim Walz? While New York Representative Mike Lawler called for people to be arrested and prosecuted, as well as for Walz to be held accountable for the scandal. In a statement to Fox News, a spokesperson for Tim Walz said, "The governor has worked for years to crack down on fraud and asked the state legislature for more authority to take aggressive action. He has strengthened oversight, including launching investigations into these specific facilities, one of which was already closed." However, a resurfaced clip shows that Walz openly bragged about making it easier for people to get into the childcare business during the 2024 vice presidential debate.
As far as childcare on this, you have to take it at both the supply and the demand side. And we have to make it easier for folks to be able to get into that business and then to make sure that folks are able to pay for that. We were able to do it in Minnesota, and I'm still telling you this.
Walz's state of Minnesota has been plagued by several high-profile fraud scandals in recent years, the largest being the Feeding Our Future scheme, in which 78 scammers, many of whom are from Somalia, have been prosecuted in the COVID-era food relief program scam. The ploy, according to prosecutors, involved funneling money from state social services coffers, including at the Department of Human Services and Department of Education, to the nonprofit Feeding Our Future and other organizations to ostensibly feed school children. Instead, the plot used the funds to splurge on the lavish lifestyles of the nonprofit's workers. According to Minnesota education officials, Feeding Our Future and its affiliated groups submitted over $500 million in claims, while federal authorities estimate that the extent of the rampant fraud could total $9 billion. The DOJ has already convicted at least 57 fraudsters in the scheme. On Monday, December 29th, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem announced in an X post that DHS would be going, quote, door to door to suspected fraud sites in Minneapolis before vowing, more coming.
Criminals of today.
Wow, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty fed up with all this information that's coming to us. It just seems to me like, I don't know, it's kind of like your little sister tattletelling on you. The Republicans keep telling us about all these bad things that's being done. I don't see nobody paying for it. Shame on you. It's a crying damn shame when, for instance, an 80-year-old woman's got to go out and work to pay taxes for scum, trash, just filth that Obama brought over here to make millions. And to hear that hussy sit and blaspheme America and white people, white men, I mean, why should we pay any more taxes? I really think they should stop taxes until, pardon my French, they get their shit together, man. We just keep feeding this machine there. The politicians are like a bunch of spoiled, rotten teenagers with daddy's checkbook. Come on, man. Y'all need to grow up. You got people out here worrying about their next meal, and y'all are out here giving our money to Ukraine, Somalia, you name it. Men that don't know what sex they are, women that think they're men. Honestly, really, we don't give a rat's ass about that stuff.
It's Democrats who have put Somali diaspora in Minneapolis at the center of their party and their state's politics. It's a small portion of the population. There is a bunch of fraud that goes on. And even Tim Walz has claimed that any investigation of this fraud is akin to white supremacy,
No,
which is
he
a
hasn't.
ridiculous
No, he has not
allegation.
claimed that. He has not said
He
that.
has said that.
He has not said that.
This is what your own federal government wages war against you. This is what happens when they target communities for their own benefit. This is what happens when they scapegoat. And this is what happens when they no longer hide the idea of white supremacy, the idea of white supremacy, the idea of white supremacy, the idea of white supremacy.
He has not. See, they'll get on there and lie. Straight up lie about their bullshit. They're racist, they're liars, they're scum, man. Democrats don't hold any punches. You're like a shrimp or a catfish. You're bottom feeding, lying piece of shit. I don't know what we're thinking, man. We got to get that trash out of here. It's not really about a religious thing. Yes, I am a Christian. And you're probably going to say, oh, you're a Christian and you said a cuss word. But I didn't say I was perfect. And the devil, Democrats, same thing. They're getting under my skin because they're getting away with everything. I'm sick of it. I know I'm not the only one that feels that way. I really think Trump's doing a good job, as good as he can. I think he needs to keep going, and he's right. They are trash, and so is or are the people that are supporting this scum, and that's 99% Democrats. If you voted Democrat, I hope it pisses you off because you suck. It's also going on in places like Ohio and Michigan. Here, listen to this.
Here's why you should switch from Google to DuckDuckGo on.
I mean, there's a lot of fraud and it's cyclical here. Most of the individuals that have come and talked to me, Peter, are terrified. They have said, and I quote, I will be stoned to death if I show my face on camera or expose what's happening. I think that Minnesota was just the tip of the spear. And as you continue to see what's happening across the country, I think logically you should start with a place like Ohio. We have the second highest Somalian population. I live in Columbus, Ohio, so we have between 40 and 60,000 Somalian residents. We're one of the largest Somali communities in the United States. And many came here legally. There were refugees between the 1990s and 2000s, and many of them are law abiding. I know the Somalian community, great people. Many of them are working hard. The problem today is not the community, it's actually the criminals within the Somalian community that have exploited Ohio's Medicaid program because we have a system right now. It's one of the easiest in the Midwest to game. I was able to uncover through confidential sources that are part of what are called the provider community, individuals that came to me to state that there is massive fraud in the Somalian community. When you look at the program today, most of these waivers in the Ohio Medicaid program, you're looking between about 80,000 people a year. That's all individuals in Ohio that can qualify. Less than 60% of that is institutional care. So when home care are going up to about 60%, we're able to actually provide care if you can find a provider. So in Ohio in particular, the law is interesting. As an individual, so say I want to take care of my elderly, aging parents at some point, I can become a home health provider. And this is where the Somali community has been really clever. They've been able to find loopholes in Ohio law to provide for care for family members, even when they don't need it. And what's specific about this is there's a model that we've created, but there's loopholes in terms of fraud. And there's really a playbook here in terms of what the Somali community is doing. So an individual will come in from the community. Many times they have a translator and they will ask a doctor to say, my family member has memory issues, they need help bathing, they can't assist or take care of themselves. So mobility issues, fall risks, preparation of meals. And many clinicians, what they're doing is they're rubber stamping this. Clinicians are getting kickbacks, which means that if they rubber stamp this, once that individual or that provider starts getting funding through the state of Ohio, they get a kickback, which means a small piece of that funding that's really meant for severely disabled individuals. The reason I know that this is happening, again, providers have been asked to rubber stamp memory issues. All of this is subjective, right? If you think about it, you come in and you say, my parent is aging, they don't remember things, they can't bathe themselves, they're falling. All you're doing as a doctor, the ones that are corrupt, the ones that are getting kickbacks, the ones that know full well that a Somalian individual really doesn't need that care, they're just rubber stamping a lot of these. And then that same individual, a week later, that's supposed to be bedridden, is all over social media whether they're out dancing at a party or something like that. So the symptoms aren't really adding up at the end of the day. And so several of the community members started reaching out to say, we did not want to engage in fraud. We specifically said, no, we will not be a provider to the Somalian community. So they have been excommunicated from a lot of these activities and a lot of even patient care. But they felt that it was really important to expose this. We have been trying.
So yeah, it's happening all over the place. My thing is, it's a crying shame. You got older people that are having to go to work, 70, 80 years old. The government just keeps the tax machine going. So basically, we're enslaved to scum like this that they're bringing over here. The Democrats know it because they're trying to import votes. That's obvious. Their party is worse than it's ever been. They really need to reorganize it. I feel like if they ever want to win another election, they need to clean it up. But just for the record, the Bushes did this too. They helped some Somalians come over. So that's why you hear me. I do fuss at Democrats a lot because they are obviously worse, but there's also other politicians that are not as good. People like me call them rhinos, but whatever. Okay, so check this out. Let's don't just pick on Somali. I mean, they deserve it, but still. Notice the common factor here, Patel. The Bank of Texas is run purely by Indians and funnels SBA loans to Indians to buy businesses. You're second class in your own country. They get around discrimination lawsuits by donating to Texas politicians and claim to serve specific industries. So, sounds to me like all of our government's on the take. So, what about this? We kind of skipped over this. Are we freaking out about this too? Because I kind of am.
In payments to around 30,000 dead, $77 million in payments to around 30,000 dead tenants. About $150 million was paid out to people with non-existent social security numbers, and around $288 million was paid to support excessively high rent. But according to HUD, the vast majority of these incorrect payments, $5.2 billion of them, were made to people with inactive SAM.gov accounts, the government website where people can register for assistance. The payments that are being scrutinized here fall under two programs: tenant-based rental assistance and project-based rental assistance. Project-based rental assistance subsidizes housing units so low-income individuals can afford them, with the government paying the property owner, and then tenant-based rental assistance goes directly to the person in need. In total, HUD sent out around $50.4 billion in rental assistance payments in 2024 to more than 204,000 individuals. The potential error flagged by HUD would make up for around 11.5% of these payments. Secretary Turner said in a statement, HUD will continue investigating the shocking results and will take appropriate action to hold bad actors accountable.
Damn. Democrats. Okay, there are those that listen to conspiracy theorists. I do observe, and so far their batting average is about 40, 60. But just check out this theory, and let's just hope that it's accurate.
High-profile individuals will cause massive public backlash. and the U.S. military and National Guard must be in position as a standing deterrent. The public must also be informed as to why these high-profile individuals are being arrested before they are arrested. We can't just arrest Obama without the public being thoroughly informed on the situation, because it would cause mass chaos, civilian casualties, and possibly a breakdown of society. Public perception must be accounted for, and that process has been underway for quite some time. In addition, the National Guard will have more than 500 rapid response units in every state on standby beginning January 1st. And Trump is about to invoke the Insurrection Act to send active-duty U.S. military forces to cities nationwide. The public must be safeguarded, and that process is already underway. There are many pieces that must be in place before Trump can take final action, and the timeline does not change based on impatience. Those who are reacting emotionally are not advancing the process. Trump has the situation under control, and no amount of complaining will accelerate it. An operation of this scale must be executed with military precision. Complaints about Pam Bondi or anyone else in Trump's cabinet will not change the outcome.
So there you have it. Ponderous, huh? So with that being said, I'm done for today. Maybe it's time to chill for a minute or two. Maybe stay tuned for something new and exciting. Thanks for listening.